back from New Orleans, or driving back from New Orleans. So we were going to do a Q&A. I did a video yesterday saying that you can text me or message me any questions that you have. If you watch this live and you do have any questions, go ahead and comment, and Alyssa will read them off for me. Alyssa, you can just interrupt me anytime. But I did get a couple questions in advance. So the first one was, how long do you keep chicks in the incubator after they hatch? We recommend anywhere from 24 to 36 hours. We typically do 24 hours. It's not ideal to keep opening up the incubator for every chick, especially if you're doing 30, 50, 100, 300, whatever. But just don't stress about it. It's not the end of the world. But we leave ours in there for about 24 hours is what we do. Another question that I got was, what's the temperature difference between the two different types of incubators? So if your incubator has no fans in it, and it is a still air, that's when there's no fans, your temperature needs to be 101. If there is circulation, if there are fans, then it needs to be 99.5. Temperature is very, very important for the growth and the development of the eggs. The humidity stays the same whether it's still air or not, but the temperature changes. So I'm going to get with Jenna when we get back, and we ship out a hatching guide. We've never used a still air before. So on our hatching guide that we ship out with all the egg orders, we don't have that on there. So we're going to add that in case you do use still air. But those were two questions that I've got. Another one that I got was about the feed. And long story short, we did do a feed video on our YouTube channel that has not a picture, a close-up of what our label is that you can watch. But the main thing that you want to do is for the first 8 to 10 weeks, you want to put them on a high protein. After that, the calcium is more important. So that was another question I got. And I believe that was all my questions. Do we have any comments or anything?
No comments. 10 people watching.
Okay. So if you guys have any questions, I'll hang around for another minute. And if you don't, then we'll just get off here. Those were the three questions that I got. I got them multiple times. So obviously they needed answered. But those are the three that I got. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Usually another question that I usually get quite a bit, not for this video, but I get the colors and what they look like. So my goal is by the end of the month, I've got about 1,500 chicks hatching the rest of this month. And I'm really, really going to try to take a day out and take a picture of each color.
How do you market your birds?
Well, you need to market your birds. Really good question. You need to don't just look at one source, because that source can either dry up or it could be seasonal or whatever the case may be. And I strongly suggest that before you do anything non-local, your local market really needs to be your foundation, you know? So it could be eating eggs, it could be meat, it could be dog training, it could be falconers, it could be chicks, it could be live birds, it could be breeders, you know, and you can do that on Craigslist and local Facebook groups. Like we live in Miamisburg, Ohio, and we have there's a ton, but there's like Ohio Home and Garden, and there's Ohio Livestock, and there's things like that. There's Craigslist, there's Hoobly, and things like that. And then typically you can advertise like on Facebook, just on your normal page, because most of your friends will be local. And then, if it's something that they're interested in also, then their friends will see it also, and you can do that. So before you market to everywhere else, you really want to own local game. We've got a couple corporate accounts, but we really weren't searching for those. Those kind of came with the more individual people that we worked with, and word got around. And there's no better advertisement than word of mouth. None.
Okay, you also have another question. Is it hard to start a business from scratch?
It's yeah, I would say yes. It's a lot of work. It's You have to have a lot of hats. Now, I can give you all the bullet points on everything negative about it, but there's one positive about it that cancels out every negative, and that's the pride of doing it for you. You know, your investment, your time, your money, your energy, your ideas. You know, so if it fails, it's very humbling. And I've failed numerous times at certain things, but luckily we don't have just one thing we're working on. We have multiple sources. So that's nice where it's not detrimental, but it is very humbling. But when it succeeds, or when something really good happens, I mean, there's nothing like it. But you've got to wear a lot of hats. You know, you've got to be the employee. You know, you got to be the hard worker. Up early and then up late at night. You know, you got to be constantly working. Most entrepreneurs, or most people that start a business, I mean, it really consumes you. I mean, that's literally everything you think about. You know, in some sort of way. So you got to be that. You got to be a good time manager. You got to balance the books. So if you're not, just because you might not be good at your personal finances, does not mean that you won't be good at business finances. So, for example, Jenna pretty much handles the personal finances for us, but I handle the business finances. So it's just it's just different for me. But you got to be your own accountant, and you got to be you got to do everything. You got to do everything. So it is a lot of work, and we're not strong at everything. So you got to constantly be learning. I've probably read at least 4 books in the past month about leadership or entrepreneur or finances or something. I mean, you always got to keep just gathering knowledge, and even if it's just one sentence out of an entire book that will help you, then it was worth it.
All right, you have another question. How do you know how much to charge for the product?
How do I know how much to charge for a product? Kind of a catch-22. Ideally, you really need to know what your expenses are. You really need to know how much it costs you for the product. So we'll say we sell most of our eggs for 50 cents. So let's just say it costs us 30 cents per egg per day with the feed and the water and the electricity and the cages, blah, 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 right? So we have a 20-cent profit. Now, that doesn't include time, right? So you really need to budget. And that's a big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, is whatever product you sell, you're just excited about doing it. You're excited about the process. You're excited about all of it, that you justify in your mind, and I know I did, that, well, I know I won't make anything, but eventually I will. And then the bigger you get, the more stuff you need to buy or the things you need to buy to make it easier on you. So, we put this website together years ago, but I'm not good at websites, and Jenna's better, but she's not great at websites. And so the bigger we got, the more we were like, well, we really need to have a really good functional website. So we had to outsource it, and we found a great web designer, and we're very happy with her. And she's very fair and very honest, and she's great. But that was an expense. And then, well, let's double in size. Well, that's, and you want to make 10 cents. Now you have a 10-cent difference, right? What you need to realize is you could sell them for 40 cents, right? Because you've got 30 cents in cost and then 10 cents, which is what you want to make. So we don't sell ours for 50 cents because we're greedy. Now, I'm not saying our expenses are 30 cents either. What I am saying is there's multiple ways you need to look at it. You need to know what your expenses are, and you need to know how much you want to profit. The second is you need to know what the market is around you. It will be detrimental if you do not do your research, either way. So let's just say the standard average egg cost is 50 cents, almost anywhere. Now, they'll fluctuate, but it's pretty much 50 cents. Now, let's just say you come into the game and you say, well, I'm just going to bid everybody lower, and then I'll take all the business. So I'm going to sell mine for 35 cents. Okay, here's the problem with that. Number one, yes, people want deals, but they also want quality. Now, here's the problem. If you cheat yourself for a lower price, eventually, your quality will go down because either you're not making what you wanted. Let's just say your cost is the same as mine at 30 cents. Now you're only making 5 cents an egg, right? Well, you got to sell a lot of eggs to make any money. Not only that, but you're spending numerous amount of hours making 5 cents an egg. So you look at the end of the month and you're like, I made $300 and I worked 80 hours a week, right? So eventually you're going to cut corners because you don't want to work 80 hours a week for $300, right? Now, if you go on the opposite end and say, well, my quality is better than anyone, and I can sell them for $1 an egg. Okay, but here's the deal. The market won't support that. So you've got to stay in the market because you might make sales and you won't have to make as many as other people because you're selling for double the price, but they're going to expect a lot more. And not only that, but that's just not how things work. You need to respect the market that you're going into. So, you need to look at the market, and you also need to look at expenses. So if you're in a high expense area like New York, well, you might have to sell your eggs for $1 a piece because your expenses are so much more expensive. Well, that's your market, but that's what your market's going to tend to also. So, hope that helps. Any other questions?
No questions.
All right, guys. I'll give you one more minute in case you have any other questions. What I was saying before those questions came in was I will try my best by the end of the month to do a slideshow of the chicks that we hatch out, and then do ideally I want to do half the side of a picture of what the chick looks like, and then the other half of the picture of it all grown up. So you can kind of see what they'll go into, because I think that was really enjoyable for people when they hatch out. But that's a lot of work, because day-olds do not like to